Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lily, and oh my goodness, I am so excited you're here today because what I'm about to share with you could genuinely transform everything. Not just your career, not just your goals, but your entire perspective on how you approach life and success. But before we dive in, I want to ask you for something really quick. If you love what you hear today, please hit that subscribe button because new episodes come out regularly and I never want you to miss an episode. Also, share this with someone who absolutely needs to hear this message. Trust me, there are people in your life right now who are making mistakes that this episode could completely prevent. Now, one more thing. If you want to explore more content on this topic, make sure you check out our podcast playlist because there's so much more content there that complements what we're discussing today. You know, I've spent years studying how people actually achieve their biggest dreams. And I mean really studying this, reading research, interviewing successful people, observing patterns in my own life and the lives of people around me. And I've discovered something that sounds simple on the surface, but when you really understand it, it becomes absolutely game-changing. This concept is called the power of silence. And I know what you're thinking right now. Silence doesn't sound powerful. It sounds passive. It sounds like you're doing nothing. But that's exactly where most people get it wrong. Let me set the scene for you. Imagine you're at a party and you meet someone new. Within the first 5 minutes, they're telling you all about their plans. They've got this business idea they're starting next month. They're going to lose 50 pounds by next summer. They're learning a new language and they're going to be fluent in 6 months. They're planning to travel to 10 countries next year. And they're telling you this with so much enthusiasm, so much confidence that you're actually inspired by them. You're thinking, wow, this person is really serious about making changes. But here's what happens next. You run into them 6 months later and nothing has changed. Nothing. They're still at the same weight, still in the same job, still haven't learned that language, and suddenly they're telling you about a different plan. And that's not because they weren't smart enough. It's not because their ideas weren't good. It's because of one fundamental principle that most people don't understand. The moment you announce your plan to other people, something shifts inside your brain. And I want to explain exactly what that is. There's this concept in neuroscience called the Zeigarnik effect. Essentially, our brains are programmed to remember unfinished tasks better than completed ones. So, when you tell someone your plan, your brain actually treats that announcement as if you've already started working toward the goal. It's like your brain is saying, okay, we've already initiated this. The announcement is the first step. But here's the problem. When your brain feels like you've already moved forward, it starts releasing a chemical called dopamine. That's the feel-good chemical. That's the same chemical that gets released when you actually accomplish something, so you get the reward of achievement without actually having achieved anything yet. Think about that for a second. You get to feel successful just by talking about being successful. Now, if your brain is already feeling the satisfaction of achieving the goal, why would it be motivated to do the actual work? It wouldn't. And that's exactly why so many people who talk the most about their goals end up doing the least work. They're getting the emotional reward of success without paying the price of actually achieving it. This is the first reason why you absolutely should not share your plans too early. The weakness of early plans. Let's talk about something really important that not many people understand. When you first have a dream, it's not strong. I need you to really get this because it's fundamental to everything we're going to talk about today. A new idea, a new goal, a new vision, it's incredibly fragile. It's like a newborn baby. It needs protection. It needs time to develop. It needs the right environment to grow. Think about when you first have a dream. Maybe it's the middle of the night and you wake up with this incredible idea. Your heart's racing, you're excited, you can see yourself doing it, you can feel what it would be like to achieve it. But in that moment, the idea is soft. It's delicate, it's small, it's not ready for the world. It's certainly not ready for criticism. It's not ready for people to poke holes in it. It's not ready for the weight of other people's expectations and doubts. I want you to imagine something with me. You're a farmer and you've just planted a seed, a beautiful seed with so much potential. Now, what would happen if you immediately called all your neighbors over? You told them, "Hey, I just planted this seed. I think it's going to grow into something amazing. What do you think? Will it grow? What if it doesn't? What if something goes wrong? Do you think I'm wasting my time?" Isn't that kind of ridiculous? Of course it is. You'd never do that with a seed because you instinctively understand that seeds need protection. They need time in the soil. They need darkness. They need moisture. They need time to develop roots before they can break through the surface. But so many of us do exactly that with our dreams. We plant the seed, and immediately we're telling everyone about it. And here's what happens. Some of those people, they say things like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." But you can hear the skepticism in their voice. Others straight up tell you why it won't work. They tell you about all the obstacles. They tell you about people they know who tried something similar and failed. They tell you that you're not ready, you're not smart enough, you don't have the experience, you don't have the resources. And all of that negativity, all of that doubt, it lands on your fragile little seed. It's like throwing rocks on soil that should be protecting growth. And your seed, your beautiful idea, it gets damaged. Maybe it doesn't die completely, but it's wounded, it's weakened, and now you're questioning yourself. You're wondering if those people were right. You're starting to doubt whether this was a good idea in the first place. This is especially true if the people casting doubt are people you respect, people you trust, people you love. If it's a family member or a close friend telling you this won't work, it hits even harder because you thought these were the people who believed in you. You thought these were the people who would support you. And when they don't, when they actually discourage you, it hurts in a way that's really hard to describe. I had a friend years ago who wanted to start her own business. She was so passionate about this idea. She had researched it, she had thought it through, she was ready to take the leap. But before she did, she mentioned it to her family. And her parents, they were so worried. They started asking questions about what would happen if it failed. They told her she should stay in her current job because at least it was stable. They told her that entrepreneurship was risky and she had a good thing going. And the more they talked, the less confident she became. Now, here's the thing. Her parents weren't being mean. They weren't trying to sabotage her. They were genuinely trying to protect her from what they saw as a risky situation. But what they didn't understand was that their protection was actually damaging her dream. Their doubt was poisoning her seed. And eventually, she gave up on the idea. Years later, she told me she still thought about what could have been if she had just kept quiet about it. The research on this is actually really fascinating. There was a study done by psychologists at New York University, and they found that sharing your goals with people actually makes you less likely to achieve them. In the study, they set up these groups. Some people shared their identity-related goals with others. Other people kept their goals to themselves. And then they tracked who actually made progress. The people who kept their goals private, they made significantly more progress than the people who shared their goals. Why? Because sharing your goal creates what's called a false sense of completion. Your brain feels like you've already done the work just by announcing it. The identity gets satisfied by the recognition from others, and since your brain feels like the goal has already been initiated, it stops pushing you to actually do the work. This is why you see so many people on social media saying things like, "Starting my fitness journey tomorrow." But then tomorrow comes, and they don't go to the gym. They don't change their diet. They don't do anything different. Because they've already gotten the reward they were seeking, the comments from people saying, "That's awesome," and "You can do it." Their brain got what it needed without them having to do anything. So the first reason not to share your plan is this: your plan is too weak. It needs time and protection to grow strong enough to withstand the world. The judgment of others. Now, I want to talk about something that's really important, and this is something that I see happening constantly in people's lives. When you tell people about your plans, they judge them. But here's what most people don't understand. They're not actually judging your plan. They're revealing their own limits. This is so important that I want to explain it really carefully. When someone hears about your goal and they immediately say things like, "That's impossible," or "You can't do that," or "That's too risky," Or, "You're not smart enough to do that." What are they actually doing? Are they predicting your future? Are they seeing something you can't see? No. They're projecting their own limitations onto your situation. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you want to build an online business. You're excited about it. You've done some research, you've got a plan, and you tell someone about it, and they say, "That's never going to work. Everyone tries that. It's too competitive. You won't make any money." Now, why are they saying that? Is it because they've somehow calculated the exact probability of your success and determined that it's impossible? No, it's because they've tried something similar in their head, and in their head, they failed. So they're assuming you will too. They don't know your work ethic. They don't know your creativity. They don't know your resilience. They don't know your resources or your network or your unique advantages. But still, they're confident enough to tell you that it won't work. That's the projection of their own limits. I've seen this so many times in people's lives. Someone wants to learn a language, and their friends say, "You're too old to learn a language. You'll never be fluent." Someone wants to get fit, and their family says, "You can't change your body. That's just how you are." Someone wants to go back to school, and they're told, "You're too busy. You'll never finish." Every single one of these statements is not an accurate prediction of what's possible. It's a reflection of what the speaker thinks is possible based on their own experience and their own limitations. This is especially hard when the judgment comes from people who are close to you, your parents, your siblings, your best friends, your partner. These are people whose opinions matter to you. These are people you trust, and when they don't believe in your dream, it hits different. It doesn't just feel like criticism, it feels like betrayal. It feels like the people who are supposed to know you best are telling you that they don't know you at all. There's something psychologists call the Pygmalion effect, or the golem effect. Essentially, how people expect us to behave influences how we actually behave. If people around you consistently expect you to stay the same, to not grow, to not change, you start internalizing that expectation. You start believing that change is impossible for you. You freeze your identity in the version of you that other people knew, and you stop trying to evolve. Think about it like this. If you've always been the quiet one in your family, and you decide to become more outgoing and confident, your family members might resist this change. They might make jokes about it. They might say, "That's not like you." And what you're hearing is criticism, but what you're really being told is, "Stay the way we know you to be." Because your growth makes them uncomfortable. It challenges their understanding of who you are. And here's the cruel part. The people who resist your growth the most are often the people who love you. Not because they don't want you to be happy, but because they're scared. They're scared of losing you. They're scared that if you become something bigger, you won't need them anymore. They're scared that you'll outgrow the relationship. They're scared that you'll move on to people who are more like the person you're becoming. I know a woman who wanted to go back to school and get a degree. She was incredibly smart, but she never finished college because she had kids young. Years later, when her kids were older, she wanted to complete her education, but every time she brought it up, her husband found a reason why it wasn't a good time. He said, "We can't afford it." Then, when they could afford it, he said, "Who's going to take care of the house?" When she solved that, he said, "You're going to be stressed studying." He had reasons for everything, and looking back, she realized it wasn't really about money or logistics, it was about fear. He was scared that when she got her degree, she might leave him. She might become more confident, more independent, and she might realize she could do better. So subconsciously, he was trying to keep her small so she would stay. This is such an important thing to understand because if you don't, you'll internalize other people's limits as your own. You'll stop dreaming big because the people around you can't see your dreams coming true. You'll shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You'll play small to make sure people don't feel threatened by your growth. And that's why silence becomes so powerful. When you keep your plans to yourself, you protect yourself from the premature judgment of people who can't see what you see. You protect yourself from the fear and doubt of people who can't imagine your success. You protect yourself from the invisible walls that people try to build around your potential. The world will judge you based on what they know about you, but if they don't know about your plan, they can't judge it. They can't discourage you. They can't plant doubt. They can't tell you why it's impossible. Because they simply don't have the information. The danger of early praise. Okay, so we've talked about how sharing your plan can expose it to criticism and doubt. But what's really interesting, and what most people don't talk about, is that praise is actually more dangerous than criticism. Yes, you heard that right. The positive feedback, the encouragement, the validation from others, it can be absolutely destructive to your dreams. I know this sounds counterintuitive. I know it sounds like the opposite of what should be true. We're always told that we need encouragement, that we need positive feedback, that we need people to believe in us. And all of those things are true when they're earned. When they come after you've done the work, after you've proven yourself, after you've shown real results, that kind of praise is amazing. It feels good. It motivates you. But praise that comes before you've done the work? That's poison dressed up as honey. Here's why. When you tell someone your plan and they respond with something like, "Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea," or "You're going to be so successful," or "I knew you had it in you," your brain experiences a reward. It's that dopamine hit again. Your brain releases feel-good chemicals. Your chest feels lighter. Your confidence rises. Your mind relaxes. And here's the problem. Your brain doesn't distinguish between the dopamine hit from actually achieving something and the dopamine hit from being praised for potentially achieving something. So from your brain's perspective, you've already won. The goal has already been achieved. And if the goal has already been achieved, why would you continue to work toward it? You wouldn't. You'd be satisfied. You'd be done. And that's where the danger lies. I want to give you a really concrete example of this. Imagine two people. Let's call them Alex and Jordan. They both decide they're going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every single day and use that time to work on their dreams. Maybe they're going to write a book, start a business, learn a skill, whatever. These are their goals. Alex tells everyone about this goal. They post it on social media. They tell their friends, their family, their coworkers. Starting tomorrow, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. every day to chase my dreams. And immediately, the comments start pouring in. "You're so disciplined. I'm so inspired by you. You're going to accomplish amazing things." Alex feels incredible. The validation is flooding in. People are celebrating their commitment. But what happens on day 4? Alex's alarm goes off at 5 a.m. It's dark. It's cold. It's uncomfortable. And Alex thinks about all those people who are now expecting Alex to wake up at 5 a.m. Alex already got the praise for committing to it. The goal is already partly achieved in the eyes of everyone who heard about it. So Alex hits snooze. And it's just once. Just this one time. But then it happens again and again. By the second week, Alex is barely waking up at 5 a.m. at all. The discipline has crumbled. The commitment is gone. And now Alex feels guilty. Alex feels weak. Alex feels like a fraud because everyone on social media thinks Alex is this disciplined person, but Alex knows the truth. Jordan, on the other hand, tells no one. No social media post, no announcement to friends or family. Jordan just sets the alarm and wakes up at 5 a.m. It's uncomfortable. It's hard. There's no one to celebrate. There's no one to applaud. There's no dopamine hit from external validation. But Jordan keeps doing it anyway because the goal is internal. The motivation is internal. Jordan is not trying to look disciplined. Jordan is actually building discipline. And 6 months later, Jordan has changed completely. Jordan's body is different. Jordan's mind is different. Jordan's entire life is different. The consistency was real because it wasn't about external validation. Now, here's what's interesting. If you told both Alex and Jordan about this scenario beforehand, they might think that Jordan is crazy for not telling people. They might think that the encouragement would help. They might think that the accountability of telling people would keep them motivated. But the research actually shows the opposite. The research shows that telling people about your goals actually makes you less likely to achieve them because of that premature dopamine release. There's another aspect of this that's really important, and I want to talk about it because it's subtle and it can really damage your progress. When people praise you early, they start attaching an identity to you. They start calling you disciplined or hardworking or ambitious or talented. And now you have to protect that identity. Now you're not actually trying to achieve the goal. You're trying to maintain the image of being someone who's achieving the goal. This is so backwards, and it happens all the time. Someone loses 5 pounds on a diet, they tell everyone about it. People start saying, "Oh, you're so dedicated, you have such a strong will." And now they have to maintain that image. So they pretend to be dedicated. They pretend to have strong will. But on the inside, they're struggling. On the inside, they're dying for the foods they love. On the inside, they're questioning whether this is worth it. But they can't show that because they've been labeled as the disciplined one. So they're performing discipline instead of actually building it. It's like you're on a stage and people are watching and you have to keep up the act. But that act is exhausting because discipline isn't something you perform. Discipline is something you build quietly, over time, in the boring moments when no one is watching. This is why I always say that the people who achieve big things are often the ones who don't talk about their goals while they're working toward them. They don't post progress photos while they're on a diet. They don't talk about their business while it's still in the beginning stages. They don't announce their learning goals to their family. They just work. And when the results are undeniable, when the transformation is real, when the achievement is concrete, then they talk about it. But by that point, they don't need the praise to keep them motivated. The praise is just the bonus. The real reward is internal. So the third reason not to share your plan is this: early praise will make you lazy. It will give you the emotional reward without you having to do the work, and that will trap you in a cycle of talking instead of doing. The jealousy factor. Now, I want to talk about something that's really uncomfortable, and it's something that most people don't want to admit, but it's true and it's important. When you start to grow, when you start to achieve things, when you start to become something greater, there are people in your life who won't celebrate with you. And worse, there are people in your life who will actively try to hold you back. And the most painful part? These are often the people you love. I'm talking about jealousy. I'm talking about the people who smile to your face while silently resenting your growth. I'm talking about the friends who make subtle jokes about your ambition. I'm talking about the family members who find reasons why your success is somehow wrong or unfair or won't last. I'm talking about the people who say they want you to be happy while simultaneously making sure you know that their happiness depends on you staying exactly where you are. Here's the thing about jealousy that people don't understand. Jealousy isn't always obvious. It's not always someone saying, "I'm jealous of you," or "I wish I could do what you're doing." Jealousy is subtle. It's dangerous. It's the eye roll when you talk about your goals. It's the, "Oh, that's nice," with a tone that suggests it's not nice at all. It's the person who stops inviting you out because you're always working on your goals. It's the friend who suddenly doesn't have time for you anymore because you've become someone they don't recognize. Let me tell you a story. I had a friend group in my 20s. We all hung out together. We all had similar lives, similar jobs, similar habits, similar level of ambition, which is to say, not much. We were comfortable. We were coasting. And then one day, I decided I wanted more. I wanted to grow. I wanted to improve myself. I started waking up early. I started reading. I started working on side projects. I stopped complaining as much and started doing more. At first, my friends said, "Oh, that's cool." But slowly the dynamic changed. They stopped inviting me to things. When I did hang out with them, the energy was different. They made jokes about how I'd changed. They'd roll their eyes when I talked about my goals. One friend even said, "You think you're better than us now, don't you?" And I didn't think that. I didn't believe that at all. But my growth made them feel like they were standing still. My progress made them feel like they were failing. My ambition made them feel small. And here's the cruel part. I think they loved me. I think they genuinely cared about me. But their love was conditional on me staying the same. Their friendship was dependent on me not growing too much, not achieving too much, not becoming too different. Because if I succeeded, if I actually did the things I talked about, it would mean they could have done it too. And if they could have done it and didn't, what does that say about them? It says they chose comfort over growth. It says they chose safety over ambition. It says they weren't willing to pay the price. This is the reality of growth. The people who don't grow will resent the people who do. The people who stay comfortable will judge the people who take risks. The people who give up on their dreams will feel bitterness toward the people who keep pursuing theirs. There's a concept in psychology called the crab mentality. It comes from the observation that if you put crabs in a bucket, they will try to climb out. But as soon as one crab gets close to the top, the other crabs will grab its legs and pull it back down. They don't do this because they benefit from it. It doesn't help them escape either. But they do it anyway. And humans do this with each other all the time. When you start growing, when you start becoming something greater, the people around you might try to pull you back down. They might do it consciously or unconsciously. They might do it with words or with silence. They might do it overtly or subtly. But the message is the same. Stay where you are. Don't grow too much. Don't leave us behind. Don't make us feel bad about where we are by showing us where we could be. And here's what's interesting. The jealousy is often strongest from the people who are closest to you. Your best friend might be your biggest obstacle. Your parent might be your biggest discourager. Your partner might be your biggest saboteur. Why? Because your growth affects their life directly. If you change, the dynamic of the relationship changes. If you grow, they either have to grow with you or fall behind. And that's scary. That's uncertain. That's uncomfortable. I knew a couple where the man was happy being mediocre. He had a decent job, he made enough money, he didn't have big dreams, and his wife was fine with that. But then she decided she wanted to start her own business. She started researching, she started planning, she started working on her dream, and suddenly her husband started finding problems with it. He said it would be too much work. He said it would distract her from the family. He said it might fail and cost them money. He said she should focus on their existing life. But what he was really saying was, don't leave me behind. Don't grow beyond me. Don't become someone I can't relate to anymore. Because if you do, I'll feel small, and I don't want to feel small. So here's what you have to understand. Not everyone who loves you wants to see you succeed. Not everyone who smiles at you is happy for you. Not everyone who says they want the best for you will actually support you when you start going after it. And that's not because they're evil, it's because they're human. It's because their ego feels threatened by your growth. It's because they don't want to be reminded of the dreams they gave up. This is why silence becomes so important. When you keep your plans quiet, you protect yourself from this kind of jealousy. You don't give people the chance to pull you down because they don't even know you're trying to climb. You don't set off anyone's insecurity because no one knows what you're building. You just build in peace. And by the time people notice what you've done, it's too late for them to stop you. It's too late for them to pull you back down. By then, you're already strong enough that their jealousy can't affect you. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying you should cut everyone off. I'm not saying you should become secretive or dishonest. What I'm saying is that you should be strategic about who you tell about your dreams. You should only share your plans with people who have already proven that they want to see you succeed. People who have their own goals and aren't threatened by yours. People who lift you up instead of pulling you down. Those people are rare and they're worth holding close. But the vast majority of people, they'll just plant seeds of doubt or resentment. So keep your plans to yourself. The energy cost of talking. Let me talk about something that's really important, and it's something that a lot of people overlook. You have a finite amount of energy every single day. Energy isn't just a metaphor, it's real. It's a real resource that you expend, and how you spend that energy determines what you can and cannot accomplish. When you talk about your plans, when you explain your goals to other people, when you defend your dreams against their skepticism, you're expending massive amounts of energy. You're talking, you're explaining, you're justifying, you're arguing, you're trying to convince them that your plan makes sense. And at the end of the day, you feel exhausted, you feel drained, but you haven't actually done anything. You haven't moved one step closer to your goal. All you've done is talked about it. Think about how much energy it takes to have these conversations. Someone asks you about your plan, and you explain it. Then they ask a question, and you answer. Then they express doubt, and you find yourself defending yourself. You're giving reasons why it will work. You're trying to convince them that you're serious. You're trying to prove that you're capable. And all of this energy, all of this mental and emotional energy is going into communication instead of going into creation. But here's where it gets really interesting. Different types of communication require different types of energy. Creative work, actual work toward your goal, that requires a certain type of energy. It's focused, it's channeled, it's productive. But defensive communication, explaining yourself, justifying your choices, that requires a different type of energy. And not only is it different, but it's often depleting in a way that actual work isn't. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're a writer and you're writing a book. That's your goal. Writing the book requires focus and creativity, but it's energizing in a way. You're creating something. Your brain is engaged. You're in a flow state. Time flies. You feel alive. That's one kind of energy. But now you tell your friends about the book you're writing, and they ask questions. What's it about? When will it be done? Do you think anyone will read it? And suddenly, you're in explanation mode. You're trying to make them understand your vision. You're trying to defend your project. You're trying to convince them it's worthwhile. And that's a completely different type of energy. That's defensive energy. That's protective energy. And it's draining. This is why people who talk a lot about their goals often have a harder time achieving them. They're spending all their productive energy on communication, and they have nothing left for creation. I had another friend who wanted to become a painter. She was talented. She had ideas. She had the potential to create amazing work, but she spent so much time talking about her art, describing it to people, trying to get them to understand her vision, defending her choices, that she barely had time to actually paint. She went to art shows and talked about becoming an artist more than she actually created art. And years went by, and she never finished any major pieces. She was too busy talking about what she was going to create to actually create it. And I think that's the difference between people who achieve their goals and people who don't. The people who achieve their goals spend their energy on doing. The people who don't achieve their goals spend their energy on talking. There's another aspect of this too. When you talk about your plans, you often give away valuable information. You give away your ideas. You give away your strategies. You give away your insights. And other people can take those ideas and use them. They can build on them. They can improve them. And meanwhile, you're still in the talking phase. You're not building anything yet because you spent all your energy explaining. I know someone who came up with an amazing business idea. It was unique, it was clever, it had real potential. But instead of keeping it quiet and building it, they started telling people about it. They wanted feedback, they wanted validation, they wanted to gauge interest. And so they spent weeks, maybe months, explaining this idea to different people, getting their input, refining it based on feedback. But you know what happened? One of the people they told decided to build a similar business. This person wasn't a friend. This person wasn't a mentor. This person was just someone who heard a good idea and decided to execute it. And they did it faster because they didn't spend time explaining it. They just did it. So the fifth reason not to share your plan is this. Talking steals your energy. It depletes you. It distracts you. It takes energy that should go into building and redirects it into defending. And in the end, you're exhausted and you haven't made progress. The world only respects results. This is probably the most important thing I want to tell you in this entire podcast. Listen carefully because this changes everything. The world does not care about your potential. The world does not care about your dreams. The world does not care about your hard work or your dedication or how much you want something. The world only cares about one thing: results. That's it. That's the only currency that matters in the real world. Not potential, not ideas, not passion, not enthusiasm. Results. What did you build? What did you achieve? What changed because you exist? I know that sounds harsh. I know it sounds like I'm discounting all the internal work, all the character building, all the lessons learned along the way. I'm not. All of that matters. All of that is important for your personal growth. But in terms of how the world perceives you, in terms of how the world treats you, in terms of how the world respects you, it only cares about what you've actually done. Think about how many people you know who talk about wanting to change their life, How many people say they're going to lose weight, learn a language, start a business, travel the world, write a book? Hundreds, thousands if you expand your circle. But how many of them actually do it? A small fraction. And the world has learned to ignore the talkers and only pay attention to the doers. If someone tells you they're going to lose 50 pounds, you might be impressed. You might even be inspired. But you're also skeptical. You've heard it before. You've seen people make those announcements and not follow through. So you don't really believe them until they actually lose the weight. And once they've lost the weight, you don't need them to tell you anymore. You can see it. The results speak for themselves. This is why it's so important to stay quiet about your plans, because when you talk about them, you're not building any credibility. You're not doing anything that earns respect. You're just making noise, and the world has learned to ignore noise. There's this interesting shift that happens. When you first start telling people about your goals, some of them respond positively. They encourage you. They say supportive things. You feel like people are believing in you. But as time goes on and you don't produce results, that shifts. The same people who were encouraging start rolling their eyes. They stop taking you seriously. They make jokes about it. "Oh, you're still working on that." Or, "Whatever happened to that big plan you had?" And it's embarrassing. And it's humbling. And it's demotivating. But if you had just stayed quiet the whole time, that wouldn't happen. If you had never told anyone about your goal, you couldn't be embarrassed by not achieving it. You'd just be working toward it. And when you finally achieved it, people would be shocked and impressed by what you'd accomplished. They wouldn't have been waiting around watching you fail. They wouldn't have had their expectations disappointed. They would just see the result. I read about this guy years ago, and he really stuck with me. He was born into poverty. He had a rough childhood. He wasn't from money. He didn't have connections. He wasn't highly educated. By every metric, he was disadvantaged. And he decided that he wanted to build a successful company. But he didn't announce it. He didn't post about his vision on social media. He didn't tell everyone about his master plan. He just worked. He worked hard. He worked smart. He worked consistently. For years, most people didn't even know he was working toward anything. He was just this quiet guy who was always busy. But then, one day, he launched his company, and it was successful, really successful. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know how he did it. They wanted to learn from him. They wanted to understand his secrets. And he gave talks and interviews, and people were fascinated by him. But it wasn't because he talked a good game. It was because he had results to back up his story. That's the power of results. Results don't need any explanation. Results don't need any marketing. Results don't need anyone to believe in you beforehand. Results just speak for themselves. They demand respect. They demand attention. They demand recognition. So when you're thinking about whether to share your plan, ask yourself this: am I doing this for results or for recognition? Am I building something real or am I building an image? Am I working toward a goal or am I working toward validation? Because if it's the latter, you're wasting your time and energy. The sixth reason not to share your plan is this: the world only respects results. And the way to get results is to stop talking about them and start building them. The power of surprise. There's something really beautiful about surprise. There's something really powerful about doing something that no one expected. There's something really transformative about becoming something that people didn't see coming. Think about the narrative arc of a great story. The best stories are the ones where there's a twist, where you don't see it coming, where the character does something unexpected, where the ending is different from what you anticipated based on the beginning. And life is exactly like that. Your life can be a story where people are expecting one thing and you deliver something completely different. When you tell people your plan, you're writing the plot for them. You're telling them what to expect. You're laying out the narrative. And now they're waiting for you to fulfill that narrative. And if you do, great. But there's no surprise. There's no shock. There's no, "I never saw that coming." It's exactly what they expected. It's anticlimactic. But if you don't tell them your plan, if you just quietly work toward it, and then one day you show up with the results, now there's surprise. Now there's shock. Now there's genuine admiration because you did something they didn't expect. You became someone they didn't think you were capable of becoming. You achieved something they didn't think was possible for you. And there's a power in that. There's a respect in that you can't get any other way. Because you proved something to them. You proved that they were wrong about their assessment of you. You proved that you were capable of more than they thought. You proved that they didn't really know you at all. I think about people who come back from high school reunions and blow everyone away. They were the quiet person in school. No one paid attention to them. No one expected much from them. But then, 20 years later, they show up and they've become this incredibly successful, confident, accomplished person. And everyone's reaction is shock. It's amazement. It's, wow, I had no idea you had it in you. And the reason their success has so much more impact is precisely because no one was expecting it. If that person had spent high school telling everyone about their dreams, their ambitions, their plans, it wouldn't have had nearly the same impact. People would have been waiting for it. They would have been watching to see if the person would actually deliver. And if they did, the reaction would be like, "Oh, you actually did what you said you were going to do." That's different from, "Oh my God, I had no idea you had this in you. You're incredible." The surprise makes all the difference. The surprise makes the achievement so much more powerful. The surprise makes people respect you on a completely different level. So when you keep your plan quiet, you're not just protecting it, you're also setting yourself up for a much more powerful impact when you finally reveal it. You're creating a narrative where people don't expect it. You're crafting a story where you are the protagonist who did something everyone said was impossible. You're becoming the underdog who nobody believed in and who succeeded anyway. That's so much more powerful than being the person who talked a big game and then maybe delivered. It's so much more powerful than being the person whose success came with an asterisk because they'd been talking about it the whole time. So the seventh reason not to share your plan is this: the power of surprise. Surprise is a gift you give to your success story. It's the element that makes people unable to ignore what you've accomplished. It's the twist in the narrative that makes your life interesting, memorable, and inspiring to others. The sacred nature of your journey. Now I want to talk about something that goes deeper than strategy. I want to talk about something that touches the spiritual side of this, because there's something sacred about your journey. There's something holy about your vision. There's something divine about the path you're on. When you have a dream, when you have a vision, when you have a goal that only you can see, that only you can feel, that only you can understand, that's not an accident. That's not random. That's not just your brain making things up. That's something meaningful. That's something important. That's something that matters beyond just your personal success. Think about it. Why were you given that vision? Why do you have that dream? Why can you see something that other people can't see? It's because that vision is yours to pursue. It's your calling. It's your mission. And no one else can do it the way you can do it. No one else has your unique perspective, your unique gifts, your unique combination of experiences and talents. Only you can do what you're meant to do. And when you start talking about your vision to people who don't have the capacity to understand it, you're diluting it. You're making it smaller. You're trying to force it into a box that's too small for it. Because people can only understand your vision through the lens of their own experience. And if their experience is smaller than your vision, they will make your vision smaller so they can understand it. But your vision isn't supposed to fit into other people's understanding. Your vision is supposed to expand their understanding. Your vision is supposed to stretch what they think is possible. Your vision is supposed to be bigger than their comprehension. This is why silence becomes almost spiritual when you think about it this way. Silence isn't just a strategy. Silence is a form of respect. Silence is a form of reverence for something that's sacred. Silence is saying, "This is mine. This is between me and God. This is not for public consumption. This is not for debate. This is not for other people to weigh in on." There's something in many spiritual traditions about not speaking things before they're ready. There's the idea that words have power, and premature words can diminish that power. There's the idea that some things need to be protected by silence while they're developing. There's the idea that your energy, your intention, your focus, these things are sacred, and you don't share them carelessly. In some traditions, there's this concept of the will of God, or the universe, or whatever you want to call it. There's the idea that if something is truly meant to be, it will happen. It doesn't need your announcement. It doesn't need other people's approval or belief. It's going to happen because it's supposed to happen. And your job is to trust in that. Your job is to do the work quietly and let the process unfold as it's meant to. I think about seeds again, because I keep coming back to this metaphor because it's so powerful. A seed doesn't announce that it's going to become a tree. A seed doesn't call out from underground explaining its process. A seed just works. It just does what it's meant to do. It trusts the process, and then one day, there's a tree where there was just soil before. And I think that's what we're supposed to do with our dreams. We're supposed to trust the process. We're supposed to do the work that we can see. We're supposed to take the steps that are available to us. We're supposed to follow the path that's in front of us, and we're supposed to let God or the universe or whatever you believe in handle the rest. We're supposed to let the divine timing unfold as it's meant to. This is so different from the modern way of doing things, where everything has to be public, everything has to be announced, everything has to be shared and validated by the crowd. But I would argue that the modern way is making us weaker, not stronger. The modern way is making us more dependent on other people's opinions, not more independent. The modern way is making us second-guess ourselves more, not believe in ourselves more. When you operate from a place of faith, faith in yourself, faith in your vision, faith in God or the universe or whatever you believe in, you don't need external validation. You don't need other people to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself and trust the process. And that's where real power comes from. So the eighth and deepest reason not to share your plan is this. Your plan is sacred. Your vision is divine. Your journey is meant for you and you alone. And by keeping it quiet, you're honoring it. You're showing respect for it. You're trusting that it's meant to happen. And that trust, that faith, that reverence, that's what's going to carry you through when things get hard. That's what's going to keep you going when no one's cheering for you. That's what's going to make your success meaningful in a way that goes beyond just external recognition. The strategy of silence. Let me bring this all together and talk about what silence actually looks like in practice, because I don't want you to think that I'm telling you to be antisocial or weird or secretive. I'm not. I'm telling you to be strategic. Silence is a strategy, and like any strategy, it needs to be implemented thoughtfully and deliberately. It's not about never talking to anyone about anything. It's about being selective. It's about being intentional. It's about understanding who deserves to know about your plans and who doesn't. There are some people in your life who have earned the right to know about your goals. These are the people who have proven over time that they want to see you succeed. These are the people who have their own goals and aren't threatened by yours. These are the people who lift you up instead of pulling you down. These are the people who understand your vision even if they don't share it. These are the people who have been consistent in their support and their belief in you. Maybe that's one person, maybe that's 3 people, maybe that's 5 people. For most of us, it's not that many, but the ones you have are precious. Hold them close. You can be honest with them. You can share your plans with them. You can ask for their input and feedback. These are people who can be in on your journey in a meaningful way. But for everyone else, silence is the strategy. You don't announce your goals. You don't explain your plans. You don't seek their approval or their validation. You just work. You just build. You just take action. This doesn't mean you're rude or dismissive if someone asks you what you're working on. You don't have to be secretive in a weird way. You can be friendly. You can be casual. "Oh, just working on some stuff," can be a perfectly good answer. You don't have to lie. You don't have to be unfriendly. You just don't volunteer information. You don't over-explain. You don't give them details that they don't need. Think of it like this. When you're working on your goals, you're in a building phase. You're in a creating phase. You're in a learning phase. You're figuring things out. You're making mistakes. You're adjusting. You're improving. This is not the phase where you need outside input. This is the phase where you need focus and discipline. This is the phase where you need to protect your energy and your vision. Once you've built something real, once you have results to show, once you're ready to share your success with the world, that's when you can talk about it. That's when people will actually be interested. That's when your story will matter. Because by that point, you have a story to tell. You have transformation to show. You have proof that your plan wasn't just wishful thinking. It was real. It worked. Strategic silence also means being smart about what information you share. If you do talk to people about your goals, don't give away all your ideas. Don't explain your entire strategy. Don't tell them everything. Give them a version that's vague enough that they can't steal your ideas or point out all the holes. Give them enough to be polite, but not enough to be useful to anyone who might want to copy your work or criticize your approach. Strategic silence means being aware of jealousy. It means noticing when people stop being supportive and start being dismissive. It means creating distance from people whose fear or jealousy is threatening your growth. It doesn't mean being mean about it. It just means protecting your energy. It might mean spending less time with certain people. It might mean not inviting them into your new phase of life. It might mean outgrowing some relationships and accepting that. Strategic silence also means having clarity about your why. Why are you pursuing this goal? Is it for external validation or internal fulfillment? Is it because you truly want it or because you think you should want it? Is it because it aligns with your values or because it will impress other people? If your why is external, silence will be harder because you'll be craving the validation. But if your why is internal, if you genuinely want this thing for yourself, then silence will be easier because you won't need anyone else to validate your choice. Strategic silence means building discipline in the boring moments. It means showing up when no one's watching. It means doing the work when there's no applause. It means continuing when there's no encouragement. It means building true strength instead of just the appearance of strength. Because true strength is built in the moments when no one is looking. True strength is built by doing things even when you don't feel like doing them. True strength is built through consistent action over a long period of time. And finally, strategic silence means trusting the process. It means believing that if you do the work, if you stay consistent, if you keep showing up, if you keep moving forward, the results will come. It means not obsessing over timelines or whether it's happening fast enough. It means having faith that what's meant to happen will happen. It means knowing that your silence and your work aren't going to be wasted. They're going to lead to something real and significant. So that's what strategic silence looks like. It's not weird, it's not antisocial, it's not lying or being secretive. It's being thoughtful about who you share your energy with. It's being deliberate about protecting your vision. It's being smart about the people and information that you allow into your building phase. And it's having faith that the work will speak for itself when the time comes. Real-world examples. I want to share some real-world examples of this principle in action because I think it's important to see how this plays out in actual life. Not in theory, but in real situations with real people. Let me tell you about Maria. Maria wanted to become fluent in English. She's from Brazil, and she spoke Portuguese at home. English was a goal for her, but when she first decided to learn it, she made the mistake of announcing it to everyone. She told her family. She told her friends. She posted about it on social media. She told her coworkers. And everyone encouraged her. They said things like, "That's amazing. You're going to be so fluent. I can't wait to hear you speak English." And Maria felt so proud. She felt like she had already accomplished something just by announcing her goal. But here's what happened. She got busy with life. She didn't study as much as she should have. She skipped her lessons. She put it off. And months went by with no real progress. And she started feeling embarrassed. She started feeling like a failure because all those people knew about her goal and she wasn't delivering. Eventually, she stopped trying altogether. She gave up on the dream. Compare that to her friend Paulo. Paulo also wanted to learn English, But Paolo didn't tell anyone. He just started taking classes. He downloaded language apps. He started watching movies in English. He listened to English podcasts. He did all of this quietly. No one knew about it. No one was watching. No one was waiting for results. He just worked at his own pace, at his own rhythm. And a year later, Paolo was having conversations in English. Paolo could watch movies without subtitles. Paolo had actually become fluent. And only then did he tell people about his achievement. The difference between Maria and Paolo wasn't intelligence or talent. They were equally capable. The difference was that Paolo protected his goal. Paolo gave himself permission to struggle without an audience. Paolo didn't need external validation to keep him motivated. Maria needed the validation so much that she couldn't actually do the work. Let me tell you about David. David worked in a corporate job, but he had a dream of starting his own business. He had an idea. It was good. It had potential. But instead of quietly building it, he told his boss. He told his colleagues. He told his friends. He told his family. And everyone had opinions. Everyone had reasons why it wouldn't work. Everyone had examples of people who tried similar things and failed. And the more he talked about it, the more doubt crept in. And eventually, he gave up on the idea. His friend James, on the other hand, had a similar business idea. James didn't tell anyone. He spent his evenings and weekends building. He learned what he needed to learn. He made mistakes and figured them out. He built a prototype. He tested it. He refined it. He did all of this quietly for 18 months. And then one day, he launched his business. And it was successful. Not instantly, but it worked. And his success was so obvious, so real, that no one could doubt it anymore. His family couldn't say, "That won't work," when it was already working. The difference was silence. James protected his idea by not explaining it to people who weren't ready to understand it. David exposed his idea to skepticism and doubt before it was strong enough to survive that. Let me tell you about Lisa. Lisa wanted to lose weight. She had been overweight most of her adult life, and she wanted to change that. And because she wanted to be serious about it, she told everyone about her goals. She posted before pictures on social media, she announced her weight loss goal to her family, she told her friends, she even told her coworkers. And initially, people were supportive. But then, something interesting happened. As she started making progress, as she started looking different, as she started being healthier, her friends started making comments. Not supportive comments. Comments like, "You look like you're getting too skinny," or "You're being obsessive with your diet," or "You're changing too much, I miss the old you." And these were supposedly her friends. But they were uncomfortable with her transformation. They felt threatened by it, and their negative comments started to undermine her confidence. Compare that to her cousin Amanda. Amanda also wanted to lose weight. But Amanda didn't tell anyone. She just changed her habits. She ate differently. She exercised. She took care of herself. She did all of this without announcing it. And her friends and family only noticed when the change was undeniable. By that point, she was so committed to her new habits, so confident in her new body and her new lifestyle, that negative comments couldn't shake her. She had months of evidence that this was working for her. She had habits that were so ingrained that they were just who she was now. People might have said negative things, but they couldn't penetrate her conviction. The silence gave her the space to become this new version of herself without constantly having to defend that choice. These are real patterns. This isn't just theory. This is how it actually plays out in people's lives. The people who succeed are the ones who stay silent about their plans. The people who struggle are the ones who broadcast their plans to the world. How to handle people asking about your goals. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but Lily, what if people ask me what I'm working on? How do I respond? Do I just refuse to answer? And that's a great question, because you want to be honest and friendly, but you also want to protect your vision and your energy. Here's how I recommend handling it. First, understand that you don't owe anyone a detailed explanation of your goals. You don't owe anyone your entire plan. You can be friendly and kind without being an open book. If someone asks you what you're working on, you have a few options. Option 1 is to give a vague but honest answer. "Oh, I'm just working on some personal projects," is a perfectly fine answer. It's not lying, it's not rude, it's just not giving away details that don't need to be shared. Option 2 is to redirect. If someone asks about your goals, you can ask them about theirs. "What about you? What are you working on these days?" This is a natural conversation flow, and it shifts the focus away from your plans. Most people will be happy to talk about themselves, and you'll have redirected without being dismissive. Option 3 is to be honest but vague about your intentions. "I'm working on something, but I'm not quite ready to talk about it yet. I'll let you know when it's ready." This is honest, it's direct, it doesn't leave room for misunderstanding, and most respectful people will accept this and move on. If they push for more details, that's a sign that this person might not be trustworthy with your information anyway. Option 4. If you're close with this person and you trust them, is to share your goal but ask them to keep it quiet. "I'm working on this thing and I'm not ready to tell everyone about it yet. Would you mind keeping this between us?" This puts the responsibility on them to respect your wishes, and if they can't respect that simple request, you've learned something important about them. Now, there's also the question of what happens when you're around certain people who are going to eventually find out about your progress. Like your family or close friends who you see regularly, they're going to notice changes. They're going to see that something is different. They're going to ask questions. In these cases, I think the best approach is to be honest, but not detailed. "Yeah, I'm making some changes in my life. I want to focus on growing as a person," is honest. You're not lying. You're not being secretive. You're just not giving them a detailed roadmap of your goals or a timeline for completion. You're not inviting them to weigh in on whether your goal makes sense. And if they keep asking questions, you can gently establish a boundary. "I appreciate your interest, but I really prefer to figure this out on my own right now. I'll let you know when I have something to share." You're being kind, but you're also being clear about your boundary. Now, here's something important. Sometimes people will interpret your silence as a sign that something is wrong. They might think you're upset with them or that you're hiding something sinister. That's their insecurity, not your problem. You don't need to convince them otherwise. You just need to be friendly and normal when you interact with them. You can be close to someone without telling them every detail of your life. And if someone in your life gets upset with you for not sharing your goals with them, that's important information. That's telling you something about that relationship. A secure, healthy person won't require you to tell them your plans. They'll respect your autonomy and your right to pursue your own goals however you see fit. If someone is upset that you're not involving them in your plans, they might be insecure. They might be jealous. They might have an unhealthy need for control. And that's something worth thinking about. So, in summary, when people ask about your goals, be vague but honest. Don't lie, but don't over-explain. Keep it simple. Redirect when possible. Ask them about their lives. Most people love talking about themselves. If you trust them, you can share, but ask them to respect your privacy. Make it clear that you're not ready for this to be public knowledge. Establish boundaries kindly but firmly. You don't need to convince anyone that your way is right. You just need to live your life. Pay attention to how people react to your boundaries. Their reaction will tell you a lot about whether they're safe people to have in your inner circle. The transition from silence to sharing. Now, there's going to come a time when you transition from silence to sharing. There's going to be a moment when your work is ready to be revealed. Your progress is undeniable. Your results are real. And at that point, you can start talking about what you've accomplished. But even that transition should be done intentionally. You don't just suddenly become loud about your success. You don't post about it everywhere. You don't tell everyone. You reveal it strategically. First, you share it with the people who are close to you, the people who love you, the people who have stuck by you. They deserve to know what you've been working on. They deserve to understand your journey, not because you need their validation, but because you want them to be part of your celebration. You want them to understand what you've achieved. Then you share it with people who might benefit from knowing about your journey. Maybe other people who are pursuing similar goals. Maybe people who need proof that it's possible to do the thing they want to do. Your success becomes a beacon for them. It becomes proof that their dreams are possible too. But even when you're sharing your success, you don't need to tell the entire story. You don't need to explain every single thing you did. You can share the highlights. You can share the transformation. But you don't need to give away all your secrets. Some things remain private. Some strategies remain with you. Not because you're being stingy, but because what worked for you might not work for someone else, and you don't want to mislead them. Also, when you share your success, do it with humility. Don't do it to brag. Don't do it to make other people feel small. Do it to inspire. Do it to show what's possible. Do it to give people hope. There's a big difference between sharing your success from a place of pride and sharing it from a place of humility. When you share from humility, you acknowledge the luck, the timing, the help you received. You acknowledge that other people could do this too. You don't present your success as proof that you're special or superior. You present it as proof that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things if they're willing to work for it. And here's something important. Even after you've achieved your goal, you don't rest on those laurels forever. You don't spend all your energy talking about what you did. You keep building. You keep working. You keep pursuing new goals. Because success isn't a destination. It's a process. It's a way of living. It's about constant improvement and constant growth. So the people who truly maintain their success aren't the ones who get famous for achieving one thing and then coast on that achievement. They're the ones who keep pursuing new challenges. They keep working quietly on new goals. They keep using silence as a strategy for their next level of growth. This is why you'll often find that very successful people are actually quite quiet. They don't brag. They don't need to tell everyone about their achievements because they're busy working on the next achievement. They're not resting in their past success. They're building toward future success. The internal benefits of silence. Beyond all the external strategic benefits of silence, there are also profound internal benefits. There are changes that happen inside you when you work quietly toward your goals. First, there's a development of character. When you work toward something without external validation, without applause, without recognition, you develop real character. You develop discipline that's not dependent on other people's opinions. You develop commitment that's not dependent on external motivation. You develop strength that comes from within. This is so different from developing an external persona, a public image, an Instagram personality. Anyone can develop that by posting and getting likes and comments. But developing real character? That requires doing hard things when no one's watching. That requires staying true to your values when no one would know if you didn't. That requires building yourself up when there's no external reward. And this internal character is so much more valuable than any external recognition because it's real. It's rooted. It's not dependent on other people's opinions or validation. It can't be taken away by criticism or negativity. It's just part of who you are. Second, there's the development of mental toughness. When you're working toward your goals without the constant validation of others, you have to develop a strong inner voice. You have to learn to believe in yourself when no one else does. You have to develop resilience in the face of silence, because silence can be lonely. Silence can make you question yourself. Silence can make you wonder if you're doing the right thing. But if you can stay committed to your goal in silence, if you can keep working when no one's cheering for you, you develop a mental toughness that's incredible. You develop the ability to trust yourself. You develop the ability to move forward on your own conviction. You develop the ability to handle doubt and uncertainty without needing other people to rescue you from it. This mental toughness is one of the most valuable things you can develop. Because no matter what you do, no matter what goal you pursue, there will be moments of doubt. There will be moments when things get hard. There will be moments when you want to give up. If you've built mental toughness through working silently, you'll be able to push through those moments. You'll be able to keep going. You'll be able to trust that the process will work. Third, there's the development of true confidence. This is different from false confidence, which we talked about earlier. False confidence is built on external validation. It's fragile. It's dependent on others believing in you. But true confidence is built on real achievement. It's built on evidence. It's built on the knowledge that you've done hard things and you've actually accomplished them. When you work silently and then produce real results, you have evidence. You have proof that you can do what you set out to do. You have proof that you're capable, and that proof is internal. It's not dependent on anyone else validating you. You know that you did it. You know that it's real. And that knowing is where true confidence comes from. And true confidence is so powerful because it affects how you show up in the world. It affects how you carry yourself. It affects how you speak. It affects how other people respond to you. When people sense that you have real confidence, not the brittle, performative kind, but the deep, rooted, real kind, they respond to it. They respect it. They're drawn to it. Fourth, there's the development of wisdom. When you work quietly toward your goals, you have space to think. You have space to reflect. You have space to learn from your mistakes without the pressure of an audience watching your every move. You can fail and adjust, and nobody needs to know that you failed. You can try different approaches and see what works without having to explain to everyone why you changed course. This creates space for learning in a way that public pursuit doesn't. When everything you do is public, you can't afford to make mistakes because everyone's watching. You have to succeed on the first try or look foolish. But when you work privately, you can fail as much as you need to. You can experiment, you can learn, you can adjust. And all that learning, all that experimentation, all that adjusting, that's what builds wisdom. And wisdom is something that's hard to fake. You can't buy it. You can't inherit it. You can't get it from reading a book or listening to a podcast, though that can help. Wisdom comes from experience. It comes from trying things and seeing what works. It comes from failing and learning from the failure. It comes from being in the arena, making mistakes, and figuring out how to do better. And silence gives you the space to do that. When it might be okay to share. Now, I want to be balanced here. I've been talking a lot about the importance of silence, but there are some situations where sharing your goals might actually be beneficial. I want to talk about those because I don't want you to think that sharing is always wrong. It's not. It's context dependent. First, if you're in a genuinely supportive community, sharing can be beneficial. Not your casual friend group or your acquaintances, but a real community. People who are all pursuing growth. People who are all working toward big goals. People who understand the struggle. People who won't be jealous of your success because they're too busy pursuing their own. In that kind of community, sharing your goals can actually be helpful. It can keep you accountable. It can give you access to people's experience and wisdom. It can connect you with resources and opportunities you wouldn't have found alone. But here's the key. You have to be really sure that it's a genuinely supportive community. Not everyone who claims to be supportive actually is. Some people will say they're supportive while secretly hoping you fail. Some people will say they're interested in your goals while really being interested in your drama. You have to be careful about this. Second, if you're pursuing a goal that requires external accountability to succeed, sharing might be necessary. For instance, if you're in a group fitness class, you kind of have to tell people that you're going to be there and why. If you're taking a course, people are going to know you're taking a course. In situations where secrecy is literally impossible or where accountability is genuinely necessary for success, then you share. But you do it minimally and with the right people. Third, if you have a mentor or a coach, you definitely need to tell them about your goals because that's their job. They're there to help you. They're invested in your success. They're not going to be jealous of your progress. That's what they want for you. So with mentors and coaches, full transparency is actually good. Fourth, if you're at a phase where you've already achieved some success and you're building on that foundation, sharing can be fine. If you've already proven that you can achieve goals, then talking about your next goal doesn't undermine your credibility. You have a track record, you have proof, you have results, so sharing at that phase is less risky. But even in these exceptions, I would still say to be strategic. Don't tell everyone. Don't overshare. Share with the right people. Share the parts that are safe to share. Keep some things private. Keep some mystery. Even when you're sharing, don't give away everything. The general principle still stands. The people who succeed are generally the ones who keep quiet about their goals while they're pursuing them, and then share their success once it's real and undeniable. handling criticism and doubt during silence. Now, I want to address something that can be really hard about silence. When you're working quietly toward your goals, when no one knows what you're doing, you can start to question yourself. You can start to wonder if you're wasting your time. You can start to doubt whether this is really worth the effort. This is especially true if your goal is ambitious. If you're trying to do something big, something that no one around you has done, something that might seem impossible to outsiders, the silence can feel isolating. There's no one cheering for you. There's no one validating that what you're doing makes sense. There's no external proof that you're on the right track. And that's when your internal voice becomes so important. That's when your belief in yourself has to be strong enough to carry you through. That's when you have to have enough faith in your vision to keep going, even when the world doesn't understand it. This is where it helps to have clarity about your why. Why are you pursuing this goal? What does it mean to you? How will your life be different when you achieve it? If you have a clear answer to these questions, you can come back to your why when self-doubt creeps in. It also helps to have small wins. You don't need big public celebration, but you can celebrate privately. You can track your progress. You can notice the changes. You can appreciate the work you're putting in. These small wins will keep you motivated even without external validation. It also helps to consume inspiration from the right sources. Read biographies of people who achieved big things. Listen to podcasts about success and growth. Read books about your field. Consume content from people who understand what you're trying to do. This will help you stay connected to your purpose and remind you that what you're doing is possible. And it helps to have a practice of some kind. Whether that's meditation, journaling, prayer, or something else, having a practice that connects you to your deeper purpose will help you stay grounded when external validation is missing. But here's the thing. The silence, the lack of external validation, the fact that no one's watching, that's actually the test. That's what separates the people who genuinely want their goals from the people who just want the image of having achieved their goals. The people who can keep working when no one's watching, when no one's validating, when no one's cheering, those are the people who are going to succeed. Because if you can only work when people are paying attention, if you can only be disciplined when people are watching, if you can only stay motivated when people are encouraging you, then your success is dependent on other people. But true success is never dependent on other people. True success is dependent on you. It's dependent on your decision to keep going. It's dependent on your belief in yourself. It's dependent on your willingness to work even when no one is looking. The long-term benefits of strategic silence. Let me talk about what happens over the long term when you adopt the strategy of silence. Because the benefits aren't just immediate, the benefits compound over time. They multiply. They transform your entire life. First, over time, you develop a reputation for being someone who delivers. You don't talk about what you're going to do, you do it, and then you tell people about it. This becomes known about you. People start to see you as someone who's reliable, someone who actually follows through. And that reputation is incredibly valuable. It's worth more than any amount of noise or self-promotion. Because in a world full of talkers, someone who actually does what they say they'll do stands out. Someone who produces results stands out. And people want to work with people like that. People want to support people like that. People want to believe in people like that. Second, over time, you build genuine confidence. Not the fake kind that disappears when someone criticizes you, but real, rooted confidence that comes from evidence. You know you can do hard things because you've done hard things. You know you can achieve goals because you've achieved them. You know you can persist through difficulty because you've done it. And that confidence shows in every area of your life. It shows in how you carry yourself. It shows in the opportunities you attract. It shows in the people you connect with. Third, over time, your life becomes full of genuine achievements instead of imaginary ones. The people who spend their time talking about what they're going to do end up with a life full of plans and dreams and ideas, but not much actual achievement. But the people who spend their time doing end up with a life full of real accomplishments, real changes, real growth, real results, And that's so much more fulfilling than a life full of plans. Fourth, over time, you attract different kinds of people into your life. The people who are jealous and small-minded tend to drift away because you're not threatening them with your plans anymore. You're not making them feel bad about themselves through your ambition. But the people who are genuinely ambitious, genuinely interested in growth, genuinely supportive, they start to appear in your life, and these become your inner circle. These become your real community, and these are the people worth having around. Fifth, over time, opportunities start seeking you out instead of you chasing them. When you're out there doing good work, producing real results, improving yourself, opportunities start to notice you. People start to want to work with you. Connections start to happen. Things start to align. This is what happens when you stop chasing recognition and start actually building something real. Sixth, over time, you develop a sense of peace that's hard to describe. There's peace in knowing that you don't need anyone else's validation to keep going. There's peace in knowing that your self-worth isn't dependent on other people's opinions. There's peace in knowing that you're building something real, even if no one else knows about it yet. There's peace in trusting the process. There's peace in faith. And finally, over the long term, when your success becomes undeniable, when your results are clear for everyone to see, you'll have a different relationship with that success. You'll know that it's real. You'll know that you earned it. You'll know that it wasn't given to you because people believed in you. It was achieved because you believed in yourself. And that makes success taste so much sweeter. Common mistakes to avoid. Now I want to talk about some common mistakes that people make when trying to implement this strategy of silence, because knowing about the strategy and actually implementing it are two different things. First mistake: breaking silence too early just because you're impatient. You've been working toward your goal for a few months, and you're starting to see some progress. And you want to tell people. You want to celebrate. You want to get some encouragement to keep you going. But you break silence too early, and you lose all the benefits we talked about. My advice is this: commit to a minimum amount of time before you tell anyone. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, but decide on a time frame and stick to it. Give yourself enough time to build real momentum, real results, before you break silence. Second mistake: thinking that silence means you should never talk to anyone about anything. That's not what I'm saying. Silence about your goals doesn't mean you become antisocial or weird. It means you're selective. You're still friendly. You're still engaging with people. You're just not announcing your plans. There's a difference. Third mistake: staying silent about past achievements and past success. Once you've achieved something, once it's done, once the results are real, you can talk about it. You don't need to stay silent forever. The silence is for while you're building. Once you've built, you can share. This is actually important because your story can inspire other people. Your journey can give people hope. So don't stay silent forever. Just be silent during the building phase. Fourth mistake: assuming that everyone you know is working against you. That's probably not true. There are probably people in your life who would support you if they knew about your goals. The key is figuring out who those people are. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability, but some people do. So don't just close off completely, just be selective. Fifth mistake: expecting silence to make your goal happen without you doing any work. Silence is a strategy, but it's not magic. You still have to do the work. You still have to take action. You still have to show up. The silence just protects your energy and your vision while you do the work. It's not a substitute for work. Sixth mistake: losing your sense of purpose during the silence. When you're working quietly and no one's cheering you on, it's easy to lose sight of why you're doing this. So stay connected to your purpose. Stay connected to your why. Have a practice that keeps you grounded. Read inspiring books. Find a mentor if you can. Do whatever keeps you connected to your purpose and your passion. Seventh mistake: Comparing your progress to other people's results. This is so dangerous. Someone else's timeline might be different from yours. Someone else's advantages might be different from yours. Someone else's definition of success might be different from yours. You're comparing your beginning to someone else's middle or end. That's not fair. That's not accurate. Stay focused on your own journey. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Eighth mistake, thinking that silence means you can't get help or support. You absolutely can get help. You just have to be strategic about who you get help from. A mentor, a coach, a therapist, a trusted friend, these people can support you. The difference is that you're not getting validation from random people on social media or strangers or your acquaintances. You're getting support from people who are genuinely invested in your success. So, those are some common mistakes to avoid. Be aware of them so you don't fall into these traps. Your first steps. So now let's talk about what you actually do with this information. You've learned about the power of silence. You've heard about the benefits. Now what? How do you actually implement this? Here are some first steps I recommend taking. First, identify your most important goal right now. Not all your goals, just the one that matters most to you, the one that would change your life if you achieved it. Get clear on that one goal. Second, decide on a silence timeline. How long are you going to stay silent about this goal before you share it? 6 months? A year? Whatever feels right to you, but decide on a specific time frame. This gives you something to work toward. Third, stop announcing your goals on social media. If you've been posting about your plans, your dreams, your goals, stop. Delete those posts if you need to. Make a commitment to not announce your plans in public anymore. This is crucial because social media is where so many people waste their power. Fourth, identify the people in your life who have earned the right to know about your goals. These are the people who have proven they want to see you succeed. These are the people you can be honest with about your plans, and commit to sharing only with these people. Fifth, develop a daily practice that keeps you connected to your purpose. Whether that's meditation, journaling, prayer, or something else, commit to a practice that reminds you why you're doing this. Do this every single day. This is what will sustain you during the silence. Sixth, break your goal down into small daily actions. What's one thing you can do today that moves you closer to your goal? What about tomorrow? What about next week? Get specific. Get tactical, because the silence isn't about dreaming, it's about doing. It's about taking consistent action toward your goal. Seventh, find an accountability partner if you need one. Not someone you'll broadcast your goal to, but someone you'll check in with regularly. Someone who will help keep you on track. This person should be someone you trust completely. Eighth, stop seeking validation. Every time you feel the urge to tell someone about your progress, to post about your journey, to get encouragement from others, pause. Sit with that urge. Notice it. And then redirect that energy into your work. Do one more action toward your goal instead of seeking validation. Ninth, commit to the process. Understand that this is going to be a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to see results immediately. But if you stay committed, if you stay consistent, if you keep showing up, results will come. Trust the process. 10th, celebrate your wins privately. You don't need to announce them to the world, but you should acknowledge them. Keep a journal of your progress. Notice the changes. Appreciate the work you're putting in. This will keep you motivated during the silence. These are your first steps. Start there. What breaks silence look like? Now, I also want to talk about what it actually looks like when you do break silence, when you do go public with your achievement, because this should be done intentionally and strategically too. First, you don't just suddenly become loud about it. You don't do a big announcement. You let it slip out naturally. You mention it in conversation. You let it come up organically. You don't make a big production out of it. Second, you share from a place of humility, not pride. You're not saying, "Look how amazing I am." You're saying, I worked really hard for this and it happened. There's a difference. One is about your ego. One is about your effort. Share from the effort place, not the ego place. Third, you share the story more than the achievement. People are interested in how you did it, not just that you did it. They want to know about the struggle. They want to know about the doubt. They want to know about the moments when you almost gave up. They want to know about what you learned. They want to know about the lessons that came from the journey. So when you break silence, share the story. Fourth, you don't need to share everything. You can keep some things private. You can share the achievement without sharing every single detail about how you got there. There's value in maintaining some mystery. There's value in keeping some things sacred. Fifth, you share in a way that gives other people hope. You're not trying to brag. You're trying to inspire. You're trying to show people that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things. You're trying to give them proof that their dreams are possible too. Sixth, you use your story to help other people. If you've achieved something, maybe you can mentor someone else who's pursuing a similar goal. Maybe you can share what you learned. Maybe you can help someone else avoid the mistakes you made. This is how you multiply the impact of your success. And finally, when you do break silence and share your success, you immediately start working on your next goal quietly. You don't rest. You don't spend years talking about what you've already accomplished. You keep building. You keep growing. You keep pursuing the next level. And that next level, you stay silent about too. This is how you keep building momentum. The deeper message. Now, as I wrap up, I want to tell you what I think is the deeper message underneath all of this. Because this isn't really about being quiet. This isn't really about keeping secrets. This isn't really just a strategic tactic. I think the deeper message is about the kind of person you want to become. Do you want to be someone who talks a good game but doesn't deliver? Or do you want to be someone who delivers without needing to talk about it? Do you want to be someone who needs external validation to keep going? Or do you want to be someone who has such deep internal conviction that you don't need anyone else's permission or approval? Do you want to be someone who performs success? Or do you want to be someone who actually builds success? Because that's what this is really about. It's not about game theory. It's not about psychology. It's about who you want to become. It's about what kind of character you want to build. It's about the values that are going to define your life. The world tells us to be loud. The world tells us to self-promote. The world tells us to get attention. The world tells us to be visible. And some of that is useful advice, but not when it comes to building something real, not when it comes to pursuing your dreams, not when it comes to becoming the person you want to be. When it comes to that, the world is wrong. What you need is silence. You need focus. You need discipline. You need faith. You need the willingness to work when no one's watching. You need the strength to believe in yourself when no one else does. You need the character to stay true to your vision even when the world doesn't understand it. And that's what this strategy of silence builds in you. It builds real character. It builds real strength. It builds real confidence. It builds real success. So I want to leave you with this. Don't announce your dreams. Don't explain your plans. Don't seek permission from people who were never meant to understand your vision. Just work. Just build. Just show up day after day and do the work that needs to be done. Stay silent. Stay humble. Stay hungry. Stay focused. And one day, when the time is right, when your achievement is undeniable, when your transformation is clear, you can tell your story. And when you do, it will be so much more powerful because you didn't try to shortcut it with words and announcements and validation. You built it quietly. You earned it. And that's when your success will have real impact. That's when your story will really inspire people. That's when your journey will mean something. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you of the core principle. The most powerful people in the world don't announce their dreams. They build them in silence. They protect their vision. They stay focused, they trust the process, and they show up with results that speak for themselves. Now, before you go, I have a few asks for you. First, if this episode resonated with you, if it touched something inside you, if you found value in it, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. We're putting out content regularly that's designed to change your life, to shift your mindset, to help you build something real. Second, share this with someone. I'm serious. There's probably someone in your life right now who needs to hear this message. Someone who's announcing their dreams to everyone. Someone who's breaking their own power by seeking external validation. Someone who needs permission to work quietly. Share this episode with them. Tag them. Send it to them. Help them understand the power of silence. Third, explore our podcast playlist. There's so much more content in there that builds on what we've talked about today. There are episodes about discipline, about building real confidence, about protecting your energy, about developing true success. Check out the podcast playlist and explore all the content there. And finally, remember this. You don't have to tell anyone what you're building. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to explain yourself. You just have to wake up every day and do the work. You just have to stay consistent. You just have to believe in yourself. And one day, when the time is right, your life will look completely different. Your energy will be different. Your confidence will shine through, and people will ask, "How did you do that?" And you'll smile, knowing that silence gave you the power. Your time is coming. Now go build. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this episode changed your perspective on success and achievement. I hope it inspired you to work differently. I hope it gave you permission to be silent while you build something extraordinary. I'll see you in the next episode. Keep building, keep growing, and never stop believing in yourself.